Hello, Giants fans, and welcome to the Valentine's Views podcast for Monday, July 3rd. I hope you guys missed me last week. I was on vacation, took my wife and one of our grandchildren, a 7-year-old granddaughter, to Cape Cod for a few days of rest and relaxation. But we are back in the saddle now, and wanted to talk a little bit about the Giants and their coaching staff, one coach in particular. Brian Daboll has put together a really, really solid group of experienced, quality assistant coaches. It's one of the big reasons why the Giants were able to have a surprising 9-7-1 playoff season a year ago. Guys like defensive coordinator Wink Martindale, offensive coordinator Mike Kafka have gotten a lot of credit, but there are also a lot of position coaches who are really, really good at their jobs. I wanted to talk about one in particular today, and that's defensive line coach Andre Patterson. Had a chance to speak with Coach Patterson exclusively a few days ago. That story will be up on Big Blue View on Monday morning. Please stop by the site, give that a read. Tremendous insight into what has made Andre Patterson a tremendous defensive line coach for 4 decades as an NFL coach. About half of that time, maybe a little more than half of that time, spent in the NFL. But really, really interesting guy that we had a chance to speak with. And as I said, Daboll talked a lot about the idea, has talked a lot about the idea of what he wanted in his coaching staff, has said that he wants guys who can not only teach, but guys who can communicate well with players, guys who care about their players, guys who are good people. And for me, it absolutely shines through that Andre Patterson is absolutely a guy who embodies those kinds of things. So please stop by the site, give that post a read. And what I'm going to do for you now is I'm going to play, with Coach Patterson's permission, I'm going to play the entirety of the interview that Coach Patterson and I did last week. How would you describe a cookie cutter coach? What is that in your mind?
I think to me it's every player doing the same thing. There's no room for adjustments based off the player's talent level. I've always used the analogy, in the past, that if I was a math teacher and I was on the board trying to, get the students to understand how to complete or figure out a problem, and if I had a student who couldn't understand how to figure it out the way that I presented it, I wouldn't just yell at the kid and make the kid feel that he was inadequate. I'd pull up a chair and sit down next to him and try to brainstorm ways to get him to figure out the problem and which way his brain works. And to me, those are good teachers. Mm-hmm. And being a football coach to me is being a teacher. So, I started off as a teacher and I've taken that with me, in my coaching career. And, every player, can't execute their job, doing the technique one way. Mm-hmm. And so I've always felt like, it's up to me to figure out the skill set, as far as football is concerned, of each player, to figure out how each player learns, because they all learn differently in different ways. So, it's my responsibility as their coach to figure that out and to be able to present the information to where every person in the room can understand it and go out and execute it to give each guy an opportunity to make the team.
And I see guys all the time talk about, you teach a different technique. You teach guys differently, without getting really deep in the weeds, what is it that you teach differently that seems to push guys to another level?
Well, I think when it comes to how to handle the running game. I mean, I'm real big on teaching them how to put their bodies in the right position so they can use their maximum power, length, and explosiveness. So, I start from the top down. So, from the bottom up. So, first thing we work on is footwork. Then from footwork, how your hips are supposed to explode and extend, and then hand placement, then eyes and vision. So we start from the bottom up, and at the beginning, some of the positions that I put them in are real awkward, but then as they get it, then all of a sudden they can see how much different how much more explosive they are, how much more power they're generating when we hit the sled. I don't know if you ever come out to watch practice, but when we go over and hit the sled, there's a lot of people that come over there and watch because it's getting struck pretty violently. But at the beginning, it's not like that, and I have to always say, hey, don't get frustrated. Don't get upset. Eventually, you're going to get it. And once they do, run game wise, they can see the difference there. Pass rush. There's some things that I teach them with their feet, with their hands, with their hips that are totally different from what they learned in high school, college, and if they were on other NFL teams and the pros. And again, they feel real awkward at the beginning. And it's uncomfortable because it's different than what they've been taught. But, once they get it, they can see how much faster, how much more explosive, how much more stress they put on the offensive lineman.
And is all of that stuff that you learned as a player?
No, it's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of me being an offensive lineman when I played. Me starting out coaching offensive line and understanding what the old linemen are trying to do. And then another part of it is listening to players that I've had along the way. Some of this is things that I've stole from different guys, in this profession, as a young coach, things I got from John Randall, things I got from Chris Dolman, things I got from Willie McGinnis, things I stole from Reggie White at Pro Bowl, and then just, putting all those together and coming up with my own ideas. I haven't been afraid to say, I'm going to do it this way, even though everybody else is doing it another way, So it's all come together from all those different things.
Interesting. I meant to do this with you last year. I had a chance to speak with Coach Rodriguez, your assistant in Minnesota, back when the Giants hired you. And I want to throw just a couple of quotes from him at you and just get your reaction to a couple of the things that he said. One of the things that he said to me was, as a coach, he said, Coach Dre said, he's the best I've ever been around, and he doesn't act that way. He acts like a servant. I'm just curious, what that means to you and how you feel about that.
Well, I appreciate the comment, but my job is to help my players get better. It's not about me. Mm-hmm. I don't let my ego get in the way. It's not about what people say about me. It's about me helping my players achieve their dreams. And, when I say dreams, that's a big word, because, some guys in the room are just trying to make the team.
Right.
Some guys in the room are trying to fight to be starters. Some guys in the room are trying to, get their second contract. Some guys in the room are trying to go to the Pro Bowl. And some guys in the room, if you're lucky, have the ability to be the best at their position in the league. And so it's about me doing whatever I have to do to help them, achieve their dreams and their goals. And so it's not about me. It's not about me protecting my image or my label. It's about me doing whatever I have to do to help my players achieve their goals.
One of the other things that Coach Rodriguez had said to me was one of the things that you taught him, and whether it's players, whether it's other people in the organization, behind the scenes, whoever it is, said one of those messages that you imparted to him was make everyone you touch better.
Right.
Is that something you've always tried to live by, and you try to do that with players and non-players as well?
Oh yeah, no, I've always felt that way, and I'm going to share information with young coaches. Not just about X's and O's and techniques, but just about the journey of being in this league and how you give yourself opportunity to stay in this league for a long time. And, how to present yourself to be a professional coach and all those kind of things. So there's a lot of young coaches in this league that are no longer young, but
right.
that I think that I've helped along the way. It's been that back when I was a college coach and back when I was the head coach at Cal Poly. It was during the era where teams only had one black assistant on the staff. And me being a black coach at the Division I level, there wasn't, it was only two of us. Coaches at that time were starting to try to get more minority coaches on their staff, but they didn't know very many guys. So I helped a lot of coaches, get jobs in this league because a lot of coaches contacted me. I guess I've been that way, for a long time, and that's always been a major thing for me.
I need to ask you about that since you broached the whole, minority coaching opportunities thing. Is that, you've been in the game a long time, college and pro. Is that changing fast enough in the NFL?
Things are different obviously from when I first came in, and there are more opportunities there. There are more minority coaches as assistant coaches in the league. More minority coaches are getting an opportunity to be coordinators in the league, and all that's very positive. But things haven't changed very much when it comes to being a head coach in this league from minority coaches.
Yeah. Let's jump off from that a little bit and talk about your own career. We've talked about being a servant for others and all of that, but you've been mostly a defensive line coach. In fact, almost exclusively a defensive line coach. You're most of your career, especially in the NFL. When you look back on it, have you done everything that you wanted to do? Everything in the NFL in your career?
Yeah, it's funny. I got asked that question the other day, and I was like, "Hey, if it was my career was over now, I have no regrets.
Mm-hmm.
I've done everything that you could do in this league except for go to and win a Super Bowl. I've been fortunate enough to coach in a lot of playoff games. I've coached in Pro Bowls and have been able to rub shoulders with some of the greatest players to ever play this game. I've been able to be around some of the best coaches to ever coach this game. So I would say there's only two things that I would say I wish I had a chance to do, and that one would be win a Super Bowl, and two would have been a chance to be a head coach. But I wouldn't have any regrets, because I've done it for a long time, and I know I play a part in players improving, not only as players but also as men, and helping them to understand that it's about being a great son, husband, father. Those things are the things that you're really being judged on, more than how great of a football player you are.
And you think that's the legacy for you, is helping these guys not only on the field but helping them be better people?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that, and I hope that that's what's happening. And I guess you'd have to ask, some of the players, but that's what I feel. And, so, on my birthday, on Father's Day, I get texts from guys that I coached in high school, from guys I coached in college, from guys that I coached a long time in the NFL that are all, been done playing for a long time, and that makes me feel good more than anything. So that's always been my goal as a coach.
And I know I saw you say in an interview, or I saw a couple times, you might have had an opportunity to be at least a solo defensive coordinator, but a little bit of maybe being too good at what you do.
Yeah, back in the day, the team has had the ability to block you. And so I had 3 opportunities where I was offered the job, and the team wouldn't let me out of my deal to go do it. And, it was a hard pill to swallow. But when it's all said and done, I was the one that signed the contract.
Right.
Yeah. So, things could have been a little bit different if I would have taken those opportunities, if I would have been allowed to take those opportunities, and if I would have had success, maybe that opportunity would have come along my way to get a chance to be a head coach. But, I can't complain about that because, I was the one that signed the contract, and I understood the rules of the way that they were back at that time.
I think it was Denver, Cleveland, and what was the third one that you might have had an opportunity?
Well, I had Denver twice and Cleveland once when I was coaching at those 2 places.
Okay. Those are the places that denied you opportunity. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
But those were the rules. And,
yep.
It wasn't just me.
Right.
It happened to a lot of people at that time, and while it was happening, it was hard to deal with it. But then you understand, hey, okay, that's the way that it is. And, those are the rules, and you got to live by them.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't want to get into, you talked a little bit during the mini camp about the health issues that you had last year, and I think you shared as much as you're comfortable sharing. So I'm not going to ask you to share more. But what I want to ask you is, you've talked about having done pretty much everything you wanted to do in the game. Why keep going at this point? Why keep going after that?
Because I love it. So you sound like my wife, but when my feet hit the floor in the morning, I'm still excited about going to work. I'm excited about being around my players and seeing my players every day, and the camaraderie with the coaches, and it's what I love to do. It's what makes me tick. And so it's more of that than, I would say, chasing the dream of winning a Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong, I want to do that, and I got a burning desire, and I want to try to achieve that and help our team, reach that goal. But it's more that I love what I do, and it's a huge part of who I am, and I guess I'm just not ready to let it go.
No, believe me, Coach, I understand that, because I'm 62, and my wife retired 2 years ago now, and I can't see it yet. I can't see it. I have no idea when it's going to happen, because I have no idea what I do with myself.
Yeah, no, that's how I am, and I just turned 63 in June, and Dex and Leo were all over. Coach, don't you even think about it, So, but that's how I feel, and I'm excited when we go back to work and do what I do, and see my players have success, and I take a great deal of pride of seeing a guy like Dexter Lawrence, who was a good player, and help him achieve to become one of the best. And that's what it was with Linval Joseph. He was a good player for the Giants, and I got my hands on him, and he became the best nose in the league. So I've had a bunch of guys that way, and those things. I'm like a proud father. When those things happen. So.
Let me ask you. I'm glad you brought up Dex, because I wanted to get into Dex and Leo just a little bit. Dex is a guy, I had an opportunity to talk to him one-on-one, and I've watched last summer at training camp, and I've watched him for a while, and I've always thought there was more than what we saw. And in talking to Dex last year, I knew he really wanted to be great. He really wanted to be the player that everybody maybe thought he could be, and he talks about going to the Hall of Fame. But I always thought maybe he didn't quite know how to get there. Am I on track in thinking that way?
No, you're 100% right. And when you look like Dex, you've been the biggest, strongest guy in the room probably since the day you walked in kindergarten. And so along the way, he's been allowed to be the big, strong, athletic, physical guy in the room. And it hasn't been about becoming a master of your technique. And that's the biggest thing that I sold him on, is that if you have a quest every day, a burning desire to be the best at your technique, then the gifts God gave you will show. And you got to give him the credit, because he worked his tail off on all the new things that I taught him, and you could just see it. I could just see it through the season. It getting better and better and better, and I could tell, okay, the light's getting ready to come on, and you could see it happening about week 4, week 5 of the season, and it just kept getting better and better as the season went on.
And I'm guessing you think there's even more in there.
No, there's way more in there. And, we've had that conversation, and, no matter what you achieve, you still got to start from ground zero and work your way back up again. And there's always more things that you have to continue to add to your game. And he understands that.
And what about Leo? I mean, Leonard Williams, to me, he's a very different kind of guy, just the way he spends his time away from the field. And when you got him last year, I mean, very, very established player. How is he with how accepting has he been with some of the things that you're trying to teach, and some of that?
He's been outstanding. He's hungry. He asked me a lot of questions. He's a great student as far as trying to, understand, why we do it and how I can help him. It's just too bad for the first time in his career that he had to deal with injuries, because honestly, I thought for sure he was going to be the one that, took his game to the next level. From the way that he was in the spring and the beginning of camp, and then the injuries started in training camp and just carried over the whole season.
But you still think, like with him, there's more in the tank too?
Oh yeah, there's no question, and I know he knows it too. And he works really hard, and it's going to happen for him. If he can stay healthy, I know it's going to happen for him.
Cole, I want to ask you, you had, from what I understand, you had a long relationship with Coach Zimmer, and you were in Minnesota for a long time. And then you get hired by the Giants. I'm just curious, did you have much of a relationship with Coach Daboll, and what is he like? Why is it that he's been successful so far with the Giants?
Well, no, I had no relationship with Dave. I did know Wink, and I worked with T-Mac. We worked together in Denver. And I knew Wink. Wink was working for the Raiders as the linebacker coach in Cleveland. They tried to get me to come to Oakland with them to be the D-line coach, but I went to Denver. And so Wink was the one that reached out to me and said, hey, if if I get this coordinator's job, would you think about coming here to be my D-line coach? And I said, yeah, I would. So it all kind of started from there. And then I just had to, once then I did the interview with Coach Daboll, and they offered me the job, and then I just had to decide which job I wanted to take. And I decided that I wanted to come work with Wink and Daboll. And, Daboll is a very organized, very structured head coach. He's demanding, but he wants to know his players. And he spends a lot of time, getting to know his players and figuring out what they do best, and trying to put them in the best position to succeed. The same thing with the team. And I was very, very impressed with what Daboll did with our football team last year, and how he handled the players, how he handled the coaching staff, how he is with the whole organization in the front office. I was very impressed.
Last thing for you. You mentioned Wink. He's different than a lot of defensive coordinators. I mean, how is it working with Wink, and how is it working with a guy whose philosophy is a little different than other defensive coordinators?
Great. Wink is very player oriented, and it's about putting his players in the best position to succeed. It's about breeding confidence in the group, and he lets his coaches do their job. He lets them work, and that's what you want as an assistant coach. He's fun. He's fun to work for. I know he's fun for the players to play for. And so it's been an enjoyable experience. And even though some things are schematically different than what we did in all those years that I worked for Mike Zimmer in Minnesota, but a lot of it is very similar. Mm-hmm. And the philosophy is very similar. So it really wasn't that big of a change for me. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of similarities to what they believe. Mm-hmm. As defensive coordinators, and the years that I was in Minnesota, our defenses were right up there with the Winks. We were always battling for top 5 defenses in the league, and 1, 2 as far as pressure was concerned, between Minnesota and Baltimore. So it really wasn't that big of a change.
All right, Giants fans, that's our show for today. Please remember to subscribe, whether you're watching us on YouTube or whether you're listening across the Big Blue View Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, this is the 4th of July holiday week. Please, please, please be careful out there. Don't do anything stupid. Stay safe. We don't need any Jason Pierre-Paul incidents out there. So stay safe, have a great holiday, and we'll talk to you again soon. All right, bye-bye.